Tonight, we begin part one of a three-part special Be Our Guest conversation focused on something that impacts nearly every household in Southwest Oklahoma, tax season. There's been a lot of noise online, a lot of confusion about what changed in July 2025 and what it actually means for working families here in Lawton. Overtime, tips, child tax credit, extensions, deadline, what changed and what hasn't. When the federal law changed mid-year, it creates confusion at the local level. Rather than speculate, we went to someone who deals with the tax code every single day. Kimberly Furrh is a certified public accountant with 28 years of experience. Her firm, Furrh & Associates, operates right here in Lawton. She is licensed in Oklahoma and Texas and works with individuals, families, and businesses across Texoma. For transparency, she is my CPA. Members of my family also use her firm. That relationship is the reason why I reached out. It is also why I want to be clear. This conversation is general information, not personalized tax advice. Your situation may vary. Always consult your own qualified professional. In this interview, we discuss no tax on overtime, qualified tips, changes to the tax credit for children, why keeping your pay stub matters this year, when to use tax software and when not to, extensions, audit selecting timing, the real deadlines you need to know before April 15th, no talking points were provided in advance, no pre-screened questions, just a conversation on the record. Here is part one of Be Our Guest with Kimberly Furrh, CPA.
All right.
Okay, can you state your name and spelling for me?
Certainly. My name's Kimberly Furrh. My last name is spelled F as in Frank, U-R-R-H.
Okay. And you realize that you're being audio and video recorded for a podcast?
Yes.
And you give me consent to use this for a podcast?
I give you consent.
Okay. Also, just for clarity, you have not received any of the questions I've asked ahead of time, just basic topics, correct?
Yeah, you just told me that we're going to talk a little bit about taxes and accounting and stuff like that. Okay. So, yeah.
And what would you like me to call you, Kim or Kimberly or?
Whatever you want.
Okay. Okay, take a deep breath. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Garrett Jackson with the Lawton Town Crier, and this is an episode of Be Our Guest. And our guest today is Kimberly Furrh with Furrh Accounting here in Lawton, Oklahoma. Kim, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great, Garrett. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for asking. And let's start off with some of the basics. You're here in Lawton. You have a business here, and you have several employees. And where are you located here in Lawton?
So we're in the old Brahms building across from Lawton High School. It's at 608 Northwest Fort Sill Boulevard.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long have you been a CPA?
28 years.
Wow, 28 years.
I know.
You've seen a lot of changes in that time, haven't you?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So the government, it changes with the president, right?
Yeah.
So we get a Republican president, taxes go one way. We get a Democrat president, taxes go another way. We get certain politicians want to change it, other politicians don't. It's been exciting. 28 years of excitement.
Well, that's good. Now, being in Oklahoma, we have 5 seasons according to the weatherman. We have spring, we have summer, we have fall, we have winter. And then they say we have the 5th season with tornadoes. And next in there we have a 6th season, and that's tax season. Your favorite season of the year, isn't that right?
It is. So I love tax season. So when I was a little girl, I was in 6th grade class, and a guy came and talked about what he did for a living, and he did tax returns, and it sounded so interesting that I decided I want to be an accountant. And then I got into tax code in college, and I was like, it never stays the same, and that's what I loved about it. Accounting can be kind of boring, and when it's boring, things fall through the cracks, but with taxes, it's ever changing. So yeah, I have seen it all.
Okay. Well, since this is getting into tax season, let's talk a little bit about that. This year, we have the big, beautiful bill that was passed by the federal government, and there's some changes that are going on in the tax season. Now, just for everybody so they know, I want to be upfront. You are my CPA. I use you, and other family members use you, so that's the reason why I reached out, is because I know who you are, and you knew me, and there's that relationship. So in transparency, But I also want to say that this is not necessarily tax advice and people need to go find their own CPA and all that. This is just general information about what's going on. So that way, because I'm not in the process of providing tax advice, that's left up to someone with you and your expertise and credentials. So let's talk about that big, beautiful bill and some of the changes that the people here in Lawton can expect to see this filing season.
Well, absolutely. And so again, this is generalized advice. Your actual position may vary. So you need to talk to a tax professional about your own tax and accounting position, right? But the big beautiful bill, one of the major ones is no tax on overtime. So if you are below, you or your family is below a certain threshold, then your overtime pay is tax-free. Now, when Congress made this change, right, when this tax code changed on July 4th, 2025, it was too late to change the W-2s. So there is no mandate that your overtime is reported on your W-2. What IRS basically said is, we can't force people to change their systems mid-year, so it's up to your employer to voluntarily report it. If they don't, use your last pay stub. And so that's huge, is people don't realize the importance of keeping their pay stub, but this year it's really important because it tells you how much overtime you actually worked. So that's one of the biggest ones here in town. Another one is your tips, right? Qualified tips are also tax-free this year. So if you're in the tip industry, sometimes tips are reported on your W-2 and sometimes they're not. So again, look at your last pay stub to see if you're getting paid tips. Those are the two biggest ones this year.
Okay. What about child tax credit? A lot of people in the community have kids and they avail of that tax credit. Tell us a little bit about the child tax credit and dependent tax credits.
Absolutely. So those numbers also increased this year, right? With the big beautiful bill, Trump let me start all over. Before the big beautiful bill, you used to get $2,000 a child and $500 for a non-child dependent. Before I go into further, let's define what that non-child dependent is. A non-child dependent is somebody who's 17 or older that you're claiming as a dependent. So if you have an adult child that lives with you, you still only get the $500 before the big beautiful bill. After the big beautiful bill, one of the things changed is the child tax credits increased. And so almost everybody who claims a dependent is going to see a bigger refund this year, provided nothing's changed from the prior year, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Now, when we see things online, we see a lot of advertisements for tax season. We see Quicken, we see TurboTax, we see a number of things. Tell me, those are good products, but why would somebody want to go with a CPA or a qualified tax professional to do their taxes as opposed to one of the softwares?
Well, and so in my recent article on Yahoo Finance, where we talked about how to pick a CPA, in that article it talks about why you need one. But really, it depends upon the complexity. If you're just a W-2 and you don't have dependents and you don't have retirement income and you just have one job, TurboTax, Tax Act, any of those online platforms are fine. But if you start getting into anything complicated is where you may claim itemized deductions and personal deductions, or where you may have done DoorDash or Uber. Now you're getting into complexity. Those programs online are only as good as you answer those questions. You answer the questions wrong, your taxes are done wrong. And try it. Answer your questions one way, see what your refund is. Answer the questions a different way, and see your numbers change. So you really want to pick a certified public accountant or an enrolled agent who is certified in taxes to help you. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about deadlines. Now, CPAs live off of deadlines, and so, we can't just come in the day before April 14th or 15th and say, hey, here's a box of paperwork, let's do it. I mean, there are some definite deadlines here that we need to be thinking about. When's that deadline occurs for someone to expect to get their paperwork from their employer, and when would a tax professional like to have that paperwork in so that they can do a due diligence on that tax paperwork?
Well, everybody thinks that you're supposed to have all your tax forms by January 31st. That is not right. Most of your tax forms are due to be in the mail by January 31st. But there's certain tax forms, especially if you have investments or certain kinds of retirement accounts, that you don't get those in the mail until February 15th and even March 15th, right? So it's ideal that you get all your stuff gathered in and turned into an accounting to your accountant, by the beginning of March. A typical accounting firm takes 3 to 5 weeks to actually do the return because you're waiting in line. With the federal government really only giving us 2.5 months to get all this work done, the sooner you can get it to your tax professional, the sooner they can get to it. But otherwise, most of the time, people are waiting in line till their taxes are done. And that's why it takes about 3 weeks. So March 1st would be a good time.
Okay. So let's say someone can't meet that March 1st deadline. Let's talk about extensions. As a school teacher, I give extensions for assignments, but there's a penalty involved with that sometimes, depending on what it is. Can we talk a little bit about extensions and how we get those?
Absolutely. So extensions are just an extension of time to file, not time to pay. People think that, I file an extension, I don't have to pay my taxes until October. That's not quite true. So IRS says, and Oklahoma Tax Commission as well says, that you need to pay in at least 100% of last year's taxes or 90% of this year's taxes. If you do that, no penalties for an extension. Now, an extension is, again, an extension of time to file. So if you don't know how much you're supposed to pay, or if you've paid in enough, you need to talk to a tax professional. But, before we get off extensions, I gotta tell you some more, Garrett. Okay.
Go for it.
So you may want an extension. If you're in a business that's a high risk, meaning you're a hairdresser, you work in cash, you have rental properties, or anything that may be a little bit sticky because of record keeping, you want to file an extension. When IRS selects their tax returns for audit, right? Every year they go through and select a list of who they're going to audit. They literally go in order of how they were filed. So if you filed in May, the chances of you being selected is a lot lower than somebody filed in February. So sometimes we strategically tell our clients, you need an extension. In fact, the gentleman that just left, I already told him he needs an extension. So.
Okay. So what documents realistically should one have ready? You mentioned earlier about W-2s. What about one that I'm somewhat familiar with is a 1099. Can you explain what that is?
Oh, yeah. So 1099 is a non-employee form, and it comes in all different kinds. You could have a 1099-R for retirement. You could have a 1099 INT for interest. You could have a 1099 DIV for dividend. You could have a 1099 miscellaneous. Those are all, that could be anything. Rent, agricultural payments. You could have a 1099 NEC. NEC stands for non-employee compensation. So if you've DoorDashed, Uber, I'm trying to think of all the other ones out there, you probably are going to get a 1099 NEC. So those are treated differently than a W-2, and sometimes there's extra taxes on them. So it's just to report that miscellaneous income that you got that's non-employee compensation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, a minute ago, you mentioned something about the Oklahoma Tax Commission. And in Oklahoma, we have state income tax and federal.
Correct.
Places like Texas, where I also believe you are certified public accountant in Texas, they only have the federal income tax.
Correct.
Now, are those dates the same for Oklahoma and the federal government?
This year they are. But in years past, during the whole COVID revolution, they were not. So, in 2020, Oklahoma had a different date than IRS. In 21, Oklahoma had a different date than IRS, just because of what's going on. Now, but majority of the time, they have the same due dates. Absolutely.
Okay. And so this year, that is April 15th. And that's
April 15th for individuals. Now, if you have a partnership, an S corporation, or a C corporation, or if you're an LLC, you may have a different due date. And that due date's March 15th. So, but everybody, individuals, April, yeah.
Okay. What timing mistakes do you notice as a CPA that are important for people to know so that they can avoid those?
So when you say timing, what do you mean by timing?
Just, getting things in late.
Okay. Yeah, so that's one of the things that we see. So right now, this time of year, we have people dropping their taxes off. Honestly, we're not going to work them because we already know they don't have everything. So people are chomping at the bit to get their taxes done because they want their refund. But by looking at their file, we can see that they don't have everything. Or we've had conversations, or we've seen them on Facebook doing stuff, and so they don't have all the records. If you have a timing mistake where your taxes got done and then you got that random piece in the mail afterwards, you can go in and amend your taxes and correct them. And you want to do that even if it costs you money, because if you don't correct it, IRS is going to correct it.